Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 102. Things That Can't Be Changed. Part 1. Captain, what did you just say? I came to my senses because of Shin Yusung's disbelieving voice. Say it again. What did you say just now? What? Companion? That man is your companion? Yu Jonghyuk didn't reply to the voice filled with distrust. I was surprised as well, but Shin Yusung's shock was devastating. The Yu Jonghyuk with a strong ego had called me his companion. Yes. This suddenly scared me. No matter how I thought about it, he wasn't someone who would call me a companion. Didn't this bastard know I was going to be resurrected? The constellation Maritime War God is touched by your comradeship. The constellation Bald General of Justice is blushing at your comradeship. 500 coins have been sponsored. Yes, now I understood. Yu Jonghyuk, he was looking for coin sponsorship. It was a little strange to see that Uriel wasn't involved, but he must be targeting sponsorship by one of the constellations. I became convinced as I watched him bleeding. Considering that this was his third regression, it wasn't impossible for Yu Jonghyuk to say the word companion. In the early rounds, he had called Lee Hyunsung and Lee Seolwa companions when they died. It hurt to think about the large number of coins he would be receiving right now. I couldn't help my emotions becoming cold. Damn, I should have said that line. Captain, how can you say that? Of course, Shin Yusung didn't know Yu Jonghyuk's thoughts and looked as if the world had collapsed. There was no choice. The 41st round, Shin Yusung. She never once heard Yu Jonghyuk call anyone his companion. Shin Yusung's fist hit Yu Jonghyuk's blade. Despite the clash between the body and the weapon, the thing that received damage was Yu Jonghyuk's sword. It was the SS grade Heaven Shaking sword. Putting aside the special options, the durability and strength was one of the best. Yet this sword was damaged by Shin Yusung's fist. In the end, the heaven-shaking sword failed to overcome the shock and was bent. The mighty splitting the sky was helplessly deflected. How dare you say this in front of me? Shin Yusung shouted and didn't use any special skills. She just threw a punch that contained ether condensed to the limit. Yu Jonghyuk coughed up blood and flew back at this blow. Her attacks, her speed and her variations. Shin Yusung was superior to Yu Jonghyuk in all aspects. The red phoenix Shuanpa and breaking the sky sword that Yu Jonghyuk was proud of faded in front of Shin Yusung. There was the terrible sound of the body breaking and Yu Jonghyuk was pushed back. It wasn't a matter of talent but a matter of time. Despite being weakened by the descent, the 41st Shin Yusung was the beast lord who was close to the limits that Shin Yusung could reach. On the other hand, the current Yu Jonghyuk was in the early stages of Yu Jonghyuk's growth. Why call him a companion? Is it because he sacrificed himself for you? Just because of this? Blood emerged without stopping. However, Yu Jonghyuk didn't give up. He didn't stop and kept wielding his sword. That jerk, why the hell was he fighting? I watched the bleeding Yu Jonghyuk and became increasingly frustrated. Shouldn't he run away after realizing something was wrong? Wasn't that what he normally did? Once again, Shin Yusung opened her mouth. Then what about me and the others? Jai Hyuni and Hyunsung Appa. Seolwa Uni? What the hell are the people who fought with you? I don't know what you're talking about. What? There is only one thing I know. Yu Jonghyuk wiped the blood from his lips and said. You killed my companion in this round. Thus, you will also die. Damn, this time I couldn't help feeling touched. Excessive immersion has restricted some of the features of Fourth Wall. I was fooled by his acting. Yes, I read Ways of Survival for this taste. Come to think of it, I had been in tears when Yu Jonghyuk said something similar to Lee Hyunsung. I suddenly felt restless. A mere reader became a companion of the main character, Yu Jonghyuk. Shin Yusung looked at Yu Jonghyuk with a face that seemed to have lost everything. You can't be like this. An ominous aura filled her surroundings. It was a process where emptiness turned to betrayal and betrayal turned to anger. You are changing. I can't tolerate it. Ether filled Shin Yusung's fists. I wanted to watch a bit more, but I was filled with a sense of crisis. Excessive immersion leads to a profound increase in the proficiency of omniscient reader's viewpoint. If this went wrong, then Yu Jonghyuk would really die. I couldn't let him be killed here. I quickly switched the mode of omniscient reader's viewpoint. It was from third person to first person protagonist's point of view. Changing your viewpoint to first person. Changing to the first person protagonist's point of view has failed. What? Why? You have failed to meet the conditions to change the viewpoint. It felt like I had been hit in the back of the head. There were two conditions to use first person protagonist's point of view. 1. I must be dead and in an out-of-body state. 2. The target and I should be thinking about each other. The first condition was met, but the problem was the second condition. That jerk wasn't thinking about me right now? Then what was with all the running amok because of revenge? I watched Yu Jonghyuk, who was frantically attacking, and became stunned. Die. I will kill you. That bastard, was he thinking about anything? Shin Yusung watched Yu Jonghyuk and opened his mouth. It can't be helped. I was going to finish it quickly, but I changed my mind. Shin Yusung smiled like she was a devil. I will finish off Captain's world in the most terrible way. Shin Yusung's eyes shifted away from Yu Jonghyuk. My heart sank the moment I followed her gaze. Shit, I really couldn't wait here and watch. If I couldn't transfer to Yu Jonghyuk, then someone else. At this moment, a sharp sensation crossed my mind. An unexpected character was thinking of me. Could I transfer to this person? Was it possible? Ah, that's right. It was because Yu Jonghyuk said those words. Yes, maybe it would be better to transfer to this person. I don't know, let's just try it. I started projecting my mind towards that person. Then after a while, my vision shook and I became dizzy. Changing your viewpoint to first person. My consciousness was sucked to another place. Companion? The first time she heard it, Shin Yusung questioned her ears. Companion. How was this possible? This was Yu Jonghyuk, not another person. Shin Yusung couldn't understand the emotion that blossomed deep inside her heart. It was an emotion she had forgotten for 1,000 years. Yu Jonghyuk, companion. She didn't know what had happened to Yu Jonghyuk. But if it was true, perhaps the Yu Jonghyuk of that time towards her. Shin Yusung touched the ground without realizing it. It is low. Shin Yusung thought so. Thus, I thought so. This is your last chance. She couldn't tolerate such a lowly thing. If you cancel your words, then I will send you away without any pain. Say it. Say he isn't your companion, just someone you know. The bleeding Yu Jonghyuk didn't answer, despite his condition. Shin Yusung had crushed one arm and his legs were weak. Even so, Yu Jonghyuk's eyes were still alive. Shin Yusung stared at Yu Jonghyuk and gritted her teeth before giving an order. Hold on to Yu Jonghyuk. The 6th grade sulfur mummies that had passed through the monster gate started moving. Their white bandages grabbed Yu Jonghyuk's body and Yu Jonghyuk's limbs were pulled as if they were going to be torn apart. Shin Yusung declared, Captain, I'll kill them one by one. Captain, you are the one who chose the most painful way. Shin Yusung walked towards the edge of the island, leaving Yu Jonghyuk alone. Kill her. She is the disaster. The incarnations climbing up from the water discovered Shin Yusung. Shin Yusung waved her hands towards them. The incarnations were touched by the light that came from her hands and were torn apart like wet newspaper. There was no time for them to scream. Flood. Monsters poured from the monster gate at her order. 2 of the most powerful monsters were standing behind her like they were guards. The 5th grade sea species, King Masswood. The 5th grade behemoth, Heavy Metal Beam. They were monsters who could cause small disasters in this world. She was about to speak when a sharp strike came from the side. Where are you going? It was a flashy sword. The person wielding it wore a black hoodie over a slim skirt. Shin Yusung immediately recognized who she was. Demon slaying was burning in Li Jiahai's eyes. You dared to make Master look like that? The majesty of a great constellation emerged from Li Jiahai's body. It was the power of a person who was stronger than anyone in the sea. Shin Yusung noticed the stigma that Li Jiahai wanted to use. This place was a river. To God. The moment she started reciting a passage, transparent ships emerged from every corner of Han River. There are still 12 ships. 23 ships appeared on Han River, scattering the water. It was a sight that made people speechless. The stigma of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, Ghost Fleet. Despite the oppressive aura of the ships, Shin Yusung just smiled like she had missed it. Indeed. This is Uni's skill. Uni? You are a lot older than me. However, you still have a long way to go. The captain should be on the ship. Why are you in a place like this? Shin Yusung reached her in an instant and touched Li Jiahai's chin. There was no time for resistance. Poor Uni. You don't know anything. Shit. What is this speed? Li Jiahai hurriedly retreated, but she couldn't escape Shin Yusung's speed. You don't know. Yu Zhonghyuk will use you and abandon you. You will die. Li Jiahai's blade flew towards Shin Yusung. Shin Yusung lightly grabbed the blade. You, who wanted to be acknowledged by Yu Zhonghyuk, died in the sea you loved so much. You were horribly slaughtered by the Japanese who hated your sponsor. Everybody, attack with full power. The 12 ships started firing the moment Li Jiahai shouted. Shin Yusung laughed as she watched the flying shells. Do you know what Yu Zhonghyuk said after losing you? The shells hit Shin Yusung's body. There was the loud sound of an explosion. Shin Yusung emerged from the smoke and kept talking. In the future, sea battles will be a bit difficult. The countless shells didn't damage Shin Yusung's white fur armor. It was one of Shin Yusung's unique skill, her strongest defense skill, called Beast King's sensitivity. The white fur wrapped around her didn't tolerate even a single scratch. Don't worry, Uni. That won't happen this time. Shin Yusung laughed. I'll send you away without any pain. Chapter 103. Things that can't be changed. Part 2. Shin Yusung's right hand quietly rose towards the sky. Cry, King Masswood. Then the ichthyosaur king behind her quietly raised his body. The king of the ichthyosaurs, the King Masswood, used ice breath. Han River instantly froze, and the ghost fleet firing their shells gradually lost their function. The fleet was unable to move. Uni, I will give you one piece of advice. The ghost fleet is nothing without water. Everything happened in an instant. Shin Yusung's fist moved as well. There was the sound of something popping. Li Jiahai lost her sword and flew through the sky. Of course, it is useless to give the advice at this time. The bleeding Li Jiahai flew away and had already lost consciousness. King Masswood's ice breath had spread completely across Han River. Aya! What? The incarnations crossing the cold water shrieked. The hundreds of people were destined to be frozen along with Han River. It was a person watching nearby who saved the helpless incarnations. The character, Li Hyunsung, has used the Stigma Great Mountain Smash LV5. Li Hyunsung's abnormally inflated right arm hit the frozen river. His right arm seemed to burst as he used Great Mountain Smash to break up the ice. His efforts were rewarded. The surface of the cracked Han River collapsed and the influence of cold breath weakened. The incarnations took the opportunity to climb onto Nodulcium. Wah! Attack! Shin Yusung saw Li Hyunsung standing in the middle of them and smiled sadly. Yes, Hyunsung Appa. I knew you would be here. You know me? You were our most reassuring shield. You saved my life many times. Shin Yusung gestured and the huge chimpanzee behind her hit his chest and walked forward. The 5th grade behemoth, heavy metal being. He stomped his hind legs, and the nearby incarnations rolled around on the ground. Li Hyunsung rushed towards heavy metal beam. Li Hyunsung's swollen arm hit the heavy metal beam's steel muscles. Li Hyunsung's power was amazing. He wasn't pushed back by the 5th grade behemoth, despite his blood vessels bursting and blood flowing from his mouth. No, he was rather overwhelming. Shin Yusung kept speaking to Li Hyunsung. "You are the same as ever. Hyunsung Appa. One of you Jonghyuk's most loyal. Who are you? You saved the lives of countless people and protected you Jonghyuk to the end. Then you were hit with the breath of the iron blood dragon and scattered into a handful of ashes. What? Do you know what you Jonghyuk said then?" Shin Yusung's tongue was a sharp scalpel that transplanted the wound she received onto another person. "I lost a bad shield." Shin Yusung saw Li Hyunsung's changed expression and struggled with a solitary pleasure. "Yes, you should feel this too. The pain I felt, the sights I saw. I won't unleash all of them, but you should understand this too." However, she didn't know. This round of regression was different from what she knew. Li Hyunsung hit the heavy metal beam and opened his mouth. "I don't know what you're talking about, but I don't follow you Jonghyuk." "What?" "I am in Kim Dokja's party." "Kim, what?" The heavy metal beam fell to the ground with a loud sound. Shin Yusung's expression hardened and she approached Li Hyunsung. "What are you talking about?" There was a popping sword and Li Hyunsung flew through the air. Shin Yusung had punched Li Hyunsung in the belly. The ether storm pierced through Li Hyunsung's solid skin and he flew to the middle of Han River. The blow was hard enough to cause all his organs to rupture. The Li Hyunsung of the 3rd round would no longer be able to live. However, a question remained in Shin Yusung's head. It was a name she had never heard of before. Kim Dokja. Who was he? Shin Yusung tore off the heads of the incarnations rushing towards her and slowly walked towards the frozen river. The frightened incarnations fled and were torn apart by the claws of monsters. Little by little, despair filled the eyes of the people. A sense of resignation spread through the incarnations facing the impossible disaster. Shoot! Of course, there were some people who tried to resist. The kings grouped up and used long-distance skills to fire arrows and ether bullets. Shin Yusung knew them. King of Beauty, Min Jaiwan. The Maitreya King Cha Sangkyung. The neutral king, John Ildo. It was strange. They were those who originally shouldn't be alive or had already gone under Yu Jonghyuk's leadership. It was because all kings other than Yu Jonghyuk should have been incorporated into one throne at the end of the 4th scenario. Then what the hell was this? Attack. There is only one enemy. Who the hell was this army under? Where had the absolute throne gone? Who was governing this world? It was at this moment that she felt killing intent. The ground where Shin Yusung was standing was frozen. Ice breath? She reflexively looked behind her and saw a large serpent pouring its breath towards her. It wasn't the King Masswood. She raised her right hand and the King Masswood moved. 2 ichthyosaurs roared towards each other at the same time and started to bump against each other. The king and queen bit at each other, turning the entire Han River into a huge battlefield. An ichthyosaur the size of a dragon was fighting King Masswood. This ichthyosaur, Shin Yusung, knew its identity. Queen Mirabad? She knew that the queen was on Earth, but there was no reason to attack her. No, what was this? Are you the future me? A voice was heard. She looked back and Shin Yusung's mind became blank. The nostalgic days shook her soul. Save a juicy. The girl shouted while a woman tried to stop the girl. Yusung, no. Shin Yusung recovered from the shock and noticed everything. Haha, yes. I knew it. Shin Yusung moved towards the girl. She knew why Yu Jonghyuk had done this. He was a human who would just any means and methods to achieve his purpose. Yu Jonghyuk, you son of a bitch, Yusung, flee. Yusanga simultaneously activated Hermes' walking method and Arachne's spiderweb. Shin Yusung's eyes narrowed. Olympus? However, Yusanga's dagger didn't reach Shin Yusung. Shin Yusung made a simple hand gesture, and the flying monsters gathered around the gate flew towards Yusanga. In a flash, Yusanga disappeared into a horde of monsters. Shin Yusung ignored Yusanga and approached the little girl. The girl looked up at her with fear and anger. The girl wasn't able to move an inch. Shin Yusung raised a hand to the girl's cheek. Yu Zhonghyuk really did find the me of this world. He tried to kill the little me to stop me. Right? A terrible joy filled Shin Yusung's head. The faded hatred and anger quickly returned to their place. There were some things that couldn't be changed, no matter how many times a person went back to the past. The disaster, Shin Yusung laughed. Hello, my past self. The moment her hand moved, a strong blow came from the rear and swallowed up Shin Yusung. The dust rose and a giant praying mantis appeared. A 6th grade insect king? Titano. Do it. The sickle attacks of the praying mantis turned the ground into tofu. It was a scary attack. Of course, it wasn't an attack that could kill a disaster. Get lost. The ether condensed in Shin Yusung's right arm and drilled a hole in the Titanoptera's stomach. The praying mantis spilled green blood and fell to the ground. Titano. The outraged Li Gilyung jumped from the head of the praying mantis. A yellow mucus emerged from Li Gilyung's body and spread into the air. Go. Antinous. A wind parasite emerged from Li Gilyung's body. It was a 5th grade parasitic species. Shin Yusung was startled. Antinous? Shin Yusung knew this presence. It was because she destroyed Kronos before coming to Earth. Antinous was from the dominant species on Kronos. She was a monster in the form of a queen. Shin Yusung couldn't believe it. The child had dominated Antinous? You are better than expected, kid. After her moment of surprise, Shin Yusung grabbed the parasite in her hands. Antinous mucus that was touching her fingertips started to burn black. It was natural. The guides had bodies that couldn't resist the disasters. You have the talent to tame a guide. You are a child with the talent of a lord. Right? He also found. Li Gilyung shouted without caring about her questions. What did you do to Dr. Hyung? What? Where is Hyung? Li Gilyung's fist hit her belly. It was a direct blow, but Li Gilyung was the one whose wrist broke. He was a great talent, but the opponent was too terrible. Shin Yusung grabbed Li Gilyung's neck and lifted him into the air. Who is Dokja? Blood poured down the struggling Li Gilyung's face. Say it. Otherwise I will kill you. At this moment, a booming sound was heard in the distance and shells fell towards the ground where she was standing. Shin Yusung jumped lightly and avoided the shells. The ghost fleet started firing again? How? Gilyung. She could see Li Jiehai and Li Hyunsung running in the distance. Doubt filled Shin Yusung's head. It was strange. Surely those were deadly blows. How were they still alive? Did her strength control fail? Her? Shin Yusung felt annoyed and inserted more strength into the hand holding Li Gilyung's neck. In any case, it was better to ask them. Goodbye, kid. The moment she increased her grip, pain spread in her head. She was startled and dropped Li Gilyung to the ground. Her trembling right hand was wriggling abnormally. Surely she wasn't infected with a parasite? No, it was impossible. A 5th grade parasite couldn't interfere with a returnee. Then what was this? Why wasn't her body listening to her all of a sudden? Then she heard a voice. Stop, Shin Yusung. Strangely, Shin Yusung found something deep inside her react the moment she heard this voice. One side of her heart started to ache like crazy. She didn't know it. It was obviously a voice she didn't know. Who the hell are you? Get out of me. What was this nostalgic feeling? Shin Yusung grabbed her head like she was resisting her own senses. You. Get out of me. She was filled with the desire to vomit as unknown memories revolved in her head. The films of the worlds were becoming tangled together. Yusung. She was distracted by the voice when the young Shin Yusung approached. The young Shin Yusung's lips moved. Ajusi, are you there? Chapter 104. Things that can't be changed. Part 3. Controlling the body of a disaster? I didn't intend on this from the beginning. Originally, my plan was something else. I decided to modify the plan the moment my mind transferred to Shin Yusung's body. Exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint Stage 3 has been activated. The first-person supporting role Viewpoint has been activated. To be exact, I had to modify it. I can't admit it. Then what am I? How long have I lived? What can I get for returning? In the midst of Shin Yusung's turbulent pain, I saw the world with her eyes. I breathed through Shin Yusung's nose and killed people with Shin Yusung's hand. I expressed Shin Yusung's thoughts with her voice. I was Shin Yusung. The exclusive skill, Fourth Wall, is shaking. Then I met Li Jiahai. I knew the moment I met her that Li Jiahai would die here. Thus, for the first time I tried something that I hadn't done before. The first person supporting role Viewpoint interferes with the behavior of the character. The exclusive skill, Fourth Wall, is shaking ominously. There was an electric current in my head, followed by tremendous pain. Yet the moment Shin Yusung dealt the decisive blow, I was able to pull back her right hand. It was a fine adjustment so Shin Yusung didn't notice, but I definitely did it. Li Jiahai didn't die. Your understanding of the character, Shin Yusung, has increased. The same thing was repeated with Li Hyunsung. My mind had become a bit ragged, but I thought that I might be able to do something. I poured more of my heart into it and increased my grip on Shin Yusung's body. Finally, it happened when Shin Yusung grabbed Li Giliung's neck. Who are you? I succeeded in controlling Shin Yusung's right hand. You have a very high understanding of the character, Shin Yusung. Someone else's arm moved according to my will. It was an amazing experience. Ajusi? Shin Yusung asked. Get out of me. Shin Yusung's right arm under my control started shaking. The abnormally deformed arm turned black and swollen, like the blood vessels were bursting. The young Shin Yusung rushed to grab the blackened arm. Ajusi, you're in there, right? Ajushi. The young Shin Yusung grabbed my right arm. At this moment, a strong spark entered the right arm. It was a spark similar to a storm of probability. The surprised people came running, but the sparks blew them away. The disaster Shin Yusung and the young Shin Yusung saw each other at the same time. The wave of memories were gathering. Ajusi. Captain. It wasn't possible. If the disconnected film theory was correct, the two people shouldn't have a shared history. You can kill me. It's okay. I wanted to survive. When I thought about it, the disconnected film theory only applied to characters. I came from outside the novel. What if my existence played a role in connecting their memories? What if I connected the two films? I could feel both Shin Yusung's holding my hand. The third round and the 41st round. The two different times were facing each other. Is it worth it for me to live? Then what is the value of this life? No. These memories. The panicked disaster, Shin Yusung stuttered and bit on her blue lips. A mighty energy was being created inside Shin Yusung's body. There was the sound of something tearing, and the young Shin Yusung was thrown away from the right arm. Shin Yusung was damaging her own body in an attempt to get me out. Blood flowed from her and her combat power started to rapidly drop. The balance of her flesh was being broken due to the excessive magic power. Shin Yusung. Wait, stop this. Aok. Shin Yusung grabbed her head and struggled to expel me. I shared her senses and felt like I was going crazy from the nausea and pain. Shin Yusung's mind was blank. I was troubled for a moment. If this continued, the disaster Shin Yusung. Damn it. My consciousness left Shin Yusung's body and all 5 senses disappeared. The skill conflict error is normalized. The delayed privilege of the king of no killing has reappeared. Your body is resurrected from death. Maybe this wasn't the right choice. However, I wanted to give it a try. A constellation who likes to change gender is sad. I would always regret it if I didn't. The recreation of your flesh has begun. The exclusive skill, Fourth Wall, offsets the mental shock caused by your death. Compensation is being prepared for the Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint Stage 3. It was my second resurrection after dying from the fire dragon. I felt my nerves being reconstructed and struggled once again. The regenerated lungs filled with hair and the optic nerves were connected, restoring my vision. The abstract activity of the mind was transplanted onto the cerebral cortex. The privilege of the king of no killing has been completed. 100 karma points have been consumed. The wastes of your flesh have been completely removed and the performance of your body has increased. Physique and magic power has increased by 2 levels each. You have exceeded an overall stats limit for the scenario. Fortunately, it was the second resurrection and I didn't have an unseemly appearance. I looked around and saw my scattered items and clothing. It was lucky that no one had taken them. I started putting on my clothes when I heard an eerie voice behind me. Kim Dokja? Ah, come to think of it, that bastard was right beside me. I looked back and saw Yu Jonghyuk staring at me with disbelief. His shoulders were still covered with the sulfur mummy's bandages. How on earth? I sighed. I couldn't explain about the king of no killing here, so I said something else. Don't say that you will kill me again. I really will die this time. Kim Dokja, you. I will explain it later. There is no time. I swung the blade of faith and freed Yu Jonghyuk from the sulfur mummy's bandages. The sulfur mummy shrieked and stared at me. Then I activated Way of the Wind through bookmark. I carried the injured Yu Jonghyuk on my shoulder and rushed towards the frozen Han River. From afar, I could see incarnations fighting with monsters. There was a black aura rising from Yongsungu, Seoul. It was for certain. The disaster Shin Yusung was over there. A juicy? Dokja Sesai. I found my party members running towards me. I put Yu Jonghyuk down on the ground and ordered. Take a break. Then I ran straight towards the disaster Shin Yusung. Dokja Sesai, it is dangerous. It's okay. I stopped Li Hyunsung and moved forward. Shin Yusung. The disaster of floods was sitting down while holding her head. Blood flowed down and hit the ground. I was certain that the incarnations didn't dare approach because of the terrible aura she was emitting. Right now, everyone could kill the current disaster of floods if they combined forces. You, who are you? The disaster Shin Yusung looked at me with trembling eyes. It's all ruined, because of you. This isn't the round that I know. The soul that had lasted over 1,000 years was shaking with fear. No, not at all. The change began with Yu Jonghyuk and then her spirit started collapsing the moment she encountered the Shin Yusung of the past. She hated Yu Jonghyuk. Her anger had accumulated over 1,000 years. The strong emotions had crumbled at the memory she received. Maybe this hope could change the world. It was the small bit of hope that the disaster Shin Yusung saw. It might be very small, but hope could overwhelm despair. I approached Shin Yusung and knelt down beside her. Shin Yusung stared at me. Well done. I kept thinking about what she would most want to hear. No such thing had appeared in Ways of Survival. I could only come up with the words myself. If I was Shin Yusung, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Shin Yusung's eyes shook uneasily. You have been waiting? Who are you? A person who wants the same world you do. At this point, Shin Yusung's eyes changed drastically. Little by little, Yusanga touched my shoulder. Dokja Sesai. I nodded and got up. My companions were looking at me. I looked at them and opened my mouth. Everyone. I liked the disaster of floods episode. I loved all the characters who appeared in this episode and valued them. Perhaps that was why I hoped for this episode to not happen. I won't kill the disaster. I thought about it. In the original third round, the disaster of floods died after the young Shin Yu-sung was killed. However, I wondered if there was another ending to this episode that I didn't know about. It was an ending that had never been attempted. I won't accept any arguments. This time, I hope you will listen to my suggestion. Juicy, what is this bullshit? There was no time limit for the fifth scenario. What if the disaster of floods gave up her role, and what if we didn't hunt the disaster? Perhaps this scenario would just continue without anyone dying. Some people understood, while others looked confused. The first one who nodded was Yu Sanga, and then Lee Hyun-sung opened his mouth. You must have an idea. I will follow Dokja's will. It is fine if that's what Hyung wants. But can I hit her as much as she hit Titano? Damn, do whatever you want. Since when hasn't a Juicy done what you wanted? But is it okay? I listened to the party members' words and then looked at the young Shin Yu-sung. The girl had tears in her eyes. Perhaps Shin Yu-sung had seen it, everything that her future self experienced. Thus, it was cruel to ask the young Shin Yu-sung about what to do with Shin Yu-sung. I stroked the child's hair and finally looked back at the disaster Shin Yu-sung. She had a distorted expression like she was a wounded beast. You will spare me? Don't make me laugh. Who are you to say that? The only thing she had left was her pride. I have lived through the 41st round of regression. I remember everything that no one in this world knows. What do you know? How did I spend that time? How can I forget all of that? The words of the future Shin Yu-sung stopped. It was because Yu Jong-hyuk was watching her. In this moment, Shin Yu-sung realized the real meaning of what she said. Being lost among worlds. Losing her loved ones. Nevertheless, living in that world again. There was only one person in this world who understood her grief. Every regressor lives hating the things that haven't happened yet. Regressor Yu Jong-hyuk started talking. That guy will be a bad person in the future and I should kill him. That person will kill my companion in the future and I should kill him. That person will be my companion in the future and I should save them. I could read the emotions that ended Yu Jong-hyuk's eyes. Since I was able to read them, Yu Jong-hyuk felt strange to me for the first time. I had never seen such an honest Yu Jong-hyuk. It is a future that hasn't happened yet. I know they don't remember me and that they haven't done anything yet. Still, I believed and acted like they did. That's how I lived. It is because everything clearly happened to me and I can't live by denying it. Anger returned to Shin Yu-sung's eyes. Yes. It is because you lived that way. My companions, so you also live that way, Shin Yu-sung. What? If you want, I will bear your hatred. I couldn't say anything because I was too saddened by Yu Jong-hyuk's words. Survive this round for the sake of killing me. Yu Jong-hyuk spoke some final words. Perhaps this was the warmest that Yu Jong-hyuk could be. It was the first time I noticed that Yu Jong-hyuk's back was so big and wide. His back was wide and lonely. Shin Yu-sung stared at Yu Jong-hyuk with her mouth wide open. Ironically, she understood the man who she hated for thousands of years due to all the years she lived. Captain, wait. Captain. I was able to feel the ripples in Shin Yu-sung's heart. Is this really okay? Keep going for this reason. This world, you don't have to abandon it. Some anger hadn't disappeared and some sorrows hadn't been erased. However, as long as she lived, salvation would come one day. I told Shin Yu-sung, this is your round now. I couldn't change anything when I was a reader. It was because I was a reader that I could change it now. I thought I could change it. At least, until the voice of the intermediate Dakibi was heard.